5 Dreams of the Red Tower by S.J. Bagley. 1. I dreamed of a street, cobblestone and crumbling, crooked as a jay's wing. I was walking, tripping over the stones, but never falling. I was wearing black leather shoes with heavy soles, ragged pants, no socks. At the end of the road, in the distance, was a tower, dark red in the afternoon sun. On either side of the street were empty storefronts, glassless and rotten, the occasional cat glaring from corners. At some point, the tower no closer no matter how much I've walked, a man in a freshly pressed black suit stepped in front of me, his hand against my chest. He began to speak in words I couldn't understand, and I reached into my pocket, pulling out a small dull knife, which I proceeded to punch into his belly with a sound like the popping of some thick water balloon. He fell to his knees, and I stood above him, casting my knife to the side, grabbing his hair, and pulling back. With his mouth open to me, my whole body began to heave and shudder until I forcefully vomited an impossible amount of ticks, dry and scrambling, which crawled into his mouth and down his gullet. Once I was spent, and there were no more of them, he stood, reached his hand within the wound in his belly, and pulled out a small jack-in-the-box, rusty, yellow, and red. I put it in my pocket and continued walking toward the tower as he walked in the direction I had come. 2. I dreamed of a child's room, decorated in a fashion from decades past, walls covered in peeling strips of cowboys and dinosaurs, the surface underneath black with mold, dry and dusty. On the ruin of a bed was a small package covered in stamps and stickers, as if it had been on a journey around the world before arriving in this sad little room. I picked it up, brown paper wrapper crumbling beneath the damp twine that held it. I stood with it in my hands for a while before untying the twine, casting it onto the bed, and peeling back the paper. Inside was a toy clown head, cold tin and warm rubber, its eyes glass marbles, cat's eyes, moving with the motion of my breath. I held it up and saw that there was a small turnkey on the back. I turned it 4 times and let it go, and it made a shrieking metallic laugh, like a dying man or a hyena. It grew warm and sick as it laughed, and I threw it to the corner of the room, wiping my hands upon my pants, and I picked up the wrapper again. The only words I could make out from the sender's address was the word tower. The air in the room grew cold and smelled of meat, long since turned. 3. I dreamed of being in a small cell, steel bars black with age, concrete floors worn smooth. I was barefoot, only wearing rough trousers. In the cells around me, I could hear heavy breathing, as if, somehow, inside some massive sleeping beast. After some time, a man, tall and thin, came to the door with an envelope. I could not make out his features as he slid the envelope between the bars and then ran off. I crawled across the floor, unable to move my legs, and grabbed the crisp paper, tearing it open. Small plastic silver stars pouring out to the cold floor as I pulled out the single small piece of pink paper, an invitation to some garden party, addressed to someone else. The location listed as somewhere you know the way to. And somehow, I did. 4. I dreamed of being at a table in the corner of a quiet restaurant, lit by candles. Across the table was a man I could barely make out, the light of the candles reflected in his glasses and his greasy beard. We spoke of distant lands, and he told me that he left part of his stomach beneath a tower, bits of it entwined in the springs of some horrible novelty toy. I asked if he was in pain. He wetly chuckled and began to describe the room he left part of his stomach in. I grew cold with fear, anxiety causing my teeth to chatter. I blew out the candles on our table, so I could no longer see him. 5. I dreamed of walking through a room filled with boxes of marbles and old toys, bent and broken, each one seeming wrong somehow. I picked up a bit of flattened tin with a clown's face painted on it and metal clackers attached to the front and back. I wiggled it quickly, causing the clackers to clack against it, much too loud for the space I was in. I kept playing with the noisemaker, weeping, knowing I would soon be finished.